Alrighty, I want to talk about plants and how you can get things to successfully grow when you're cut off from a supply of garden chemicals such as herbicides like glyphosate, pesticides, and possibly even chemical fertiliser. Having said that, believe me, the old all-purpose chemical fertiliser is cheap, and it's not a terribly stupid idea to hoard up some of that, or if you're not that way inclined, hey, there's stuff like Dynamic Lifter, and I've seen another version of a similar stuff which is a darn sight cheaper, just today actually, in a hardware store, that's a similar sort of a thing, made from chicken manure. Dynamic Lifter is a common one over here. It's got 4 different things: chicken manure, fish guts, blood and bone, and I think it's seaweed or something like that. But yeah, seaweed fertiliser, any of that sort of stuff, or chemical fertiliser, good idea to hoard it up. I have used some glyphosate that I believe at the time was, oh shit, the use by was 98 on it, and I used it when I killed the box thorns. And it worked. Glyphosate lasts a long time. But, you may wake up and find out that you're up shit creek, or all you can get is a handful of frickin' lawn fertiliser or something. What can you do to set yourself up so you got plants to eat? Before you get too worried about meat and all that sort of stuff, don't worry, because I'm reading about Cuba from 96 and 1996. Journo who went there, they basically didn't have any meat there. And, parts of India, same thing, don't eat meat. Even when I've been here, although I'm eating a lot of meat at the moment, there were times where I had a freezer full of meat at my parents' place, and I just keep forgetting to get any meat for myself, and quite frankly I couldn't be stuffed to scrub up all the bloody fat off the frying pan and all that sort of thing. And so often I'd only go over there, like once a week I go over to my parents' place for tea, and that'd be the only meat I had for the week when I was over there. It's, quite possible to survive as a vegetarian. It's not preferential, especially not for kids and stuff. My sister found an article online that she showed me when I was at her house where these stupid vegans decided it'd be a great idea to give their kitten a vegan lifestyle, and it just about killed the fucking thing. Anyway, having said that, we can survive on greens and a good heap of carbohydrates. Now, where I am, I'm not too stressed about carbohydrates because I'm surrounded by grain fields, and well, my mum has got a flour mill, and I'm probably going to get one as well before terribly long, hopefully. And potatoes, hey, if you know how to grow them in amongst old tyres or buckets or whatever, yeah, great, go ahead, do that. There is an abundance of grain in my area, and it might not be such a stupid idea to hoard up a bit of, what's his name, a bit of rice or something like that. But yeah, a lot of places in the world, it's not out of reach to grow potatoes. I don't know if they're affected by nematodes or not. But one thing I will talk about is green plants and stuff like that. Surprise, surprise, edible weeds. If you open your eyes, you will be shocked at the amount of edible weeds around. Now, I have seen sometimes 3 different versions of a plant that people would all say looks like an edible weed, but I've got a keen enough eye to pick the differences between seed pods, between leaf shapes, and even textures of leaves. Yeah, literally the amount of hair on a leaf, the textures of a leaf are sometimes the only way you can tell the difference. between an edible weed and what I call an imposter, which is something that looks very similar but is not that actual edible weed. I've seen imposters of Charlotte mustard, I've seen imposters of dandelion, I've seen imposters of fat hen or lamb's quarters, as you may want to call it. You know, but if you get to know, and I mean, you know, it takes a lot of Google images searches, and I mean, you know, quite a good look at it all. There's a way I go about finding edible weeds, and I do a Google search on the name of what I know it to be called as by, you know, my father or my uncle or a relative or some local bloke or somebody at work has called it. Then I try and ascertain what the botanical name is, and then I do a Google images search on the botanical name. And don't just look at one picture, look at friggin' shitloads, 15 or more, and you'll come to work it out exactly how to identify these plants. And yeah, there's a heap of bloody things out there. Fat hen, lamb's quarters, that grows around here. Dandelion, there's not so much of that grows around here at all, actually. But in the city I go to, shit, it is down the sidewalks, fucking everywhere. And another one, we used to have a boomeroo, and for some reason I've got some coming up here. I don't know where it really come from, but I don't mind. Is purslane. That's different. The French grow it commercially, and it's sort of it's almost like a succulent, but it's got a little bit of salty flavour to it, and pretty good. You know, the old dandelion's a bit sour and a bit sharp, but hey, it's food. But it's not like some of these other things that got a bad aftertaste. Not really bad or anything. You know, I'm not saying it's the most beautiful, but if you've eaten endive, well, hey, you know, not too bad. If you're eating dandelion, it's, not much worse. You'd be surprised at how many there is. Some of these things you can just eat straight. Just pick them and eat them straight as a salad. And other things, you know, you might need to steam them or boil them a little bit. Fat hen, as we call it here, lamb's quarters, you guys might call it. You know, we have that. And, yeah, the thing with that is you'll notice what looks like sugar or salt crystals on it, and sometimes pink tips, and there's another one that doesn't have the sugar and salt crystals and the pink tips, and that's an imposter one. But when you get that, it boils down to fuck all, and you think, shit, I had a heap of it here and now I've got nothing. What happened? Believe me, it shrinks when you boil it. That was actually a vegetable used in medieval Europe without a problem. If you got access to boxthorn or anything like that, you know, berries on boxthorn are fine. I've showed myself roasting and eating them. They're good to go. Another one, if you're in the state of New South Wales, this will be an absolute clanger. And I've got a small amount of it beside my house, and that's the only time I've actually seen it in this state. Oh, except for once or twice. I think I've seen it in the city gardens, in people's houses. Yeah, I saw it landing on someone's fence a while ago. Big heap of it. Madeira vine. It's a declared weed, especially in New South Wales. It's a significant issue in the bush. It's a vine that just grows over the top of everything. And it's a relative of Malabar spinach. I have eaten plates full of the shit here. I kind of like it. Let me put it like this to you. It's very gelatinous. If you've had okra, like as in you've boiled okra or steamed okra, not deep fried it or anything like that, that gelatinous sort of stuff, it's a bit like that. And as I said, close relative of Malabar spinach. If you've had that, it's very similar. Leaves ain't quite as thick, at least not my one, or quite as juicy. but it's a close relative of it. And because of that gelatinous stuff, I'll put it like this: you'll never get constipated eating it. Won't give you diarrhea, but you won't get constipated. And it's got a bit of a nasty aftertaste that can be sort of hidden with soy sauce, or if you're hard up, salt, just straight old salt on it after you've cooked it, and you should be able to hide most of the aftertaste. It's not too bad eating, you know, so long as the aftertaste don't get you that much. It's pretty good eating, to be quite honest. And you know, it's, I shit you not, it's reputed to sometimes grow a foot a week. No shit. It grows horrendously fast. It is very troublesome at spreading itself because it has little tubers that hang off of the vines, and they call them air tubers. And you can't eat them. But you chuck one of them in the ground and bang, off she goes. And yeah, well, I think they sort of spread under the ground as well. Like as in they might have sort of runners under the ground. These air tubers that you see on the vines, they actually grow on the root system under the ground. Now, because the ones above the vine are being exposed to sunlight, they're green like green potatoes. The ones under the ground, however, are like normal potatoes underground. And yes, you can eat them. They have a very thick skin, but don't get the ones off the vine. But if you can dig into the ground around it and find some, beauty, good to go. Give them a quick wash, wrap them up in a bit of alfoil, throw them in a coals of a fire, and you got to pick off a pretty thick skin, but you'll be having basically miniature potato sort of stuff. So that's another option for carbs right there, all out of the one plant. Is it any wonder they grew this stuff in the United States in the early days of settlement as a quick food source? And by quick I mean holy smoke, this shit grows, and I've seen it grow, and it gets going if it wants to. The other remarkable thing about it is not only that you can get sort of potatoes off it and greens off it, although not that many potatoes, you get heaps of greens off it. Around here at the moment, the grass is as dry as shit. Everything's dried out, all the grass is dead, and that Madeira vine is still green enough for me to go out there, pick it, boil it up, and it's not limp, and it's not going to be wilty, and it's not sagging. It's good enough and fresh enough and, you know, not limp, that I can just go out and pick the stuff and cook it up tomorrow when everything else is dried out. So that's another good option. The other thing I really want to get onto is you will find that there are some plants in your area that grow that don't have any pests, or grow exceedingly well without any care. Around here, I think there's some plants that just fit into that genre pretty much in general. Around here, the stupid nurseries sometimes try and sell you stuff that's tropical, which is why you find that your lemon-scented verbena sort of all dies back a lot, and your mushroom herb never made it through the winter, even though it wasn't that cold a winter, and blah, blah, blah. And, yeah. There's some things that just are the wrong climate, but the dickheads still sell them anyway, because people might want to buy some friggin' banana plant or some bullshit, you know, something that really isn't suited to the climate, but, oh, it looks good, so they buy it anyway. Guess what? Fail. Anyway, you'll find out, especially from talking to old ladies and whatnot, that there are plants that grow exceedingly well in the area. And as I was saying, some of them are probably all like that. My mum ripped out a rhubarb and gave my sister a bit at a rented house that she was at. And I think she threw the rest in the bin, but it was massive, and she had this thing for a few years, and Oh, I wish I had planted it here. And I probably, should have made a go of that. I don't know if I think I was living here at the time, but rhubarb, seems to grow exceedingly well around here. And the other one, obviously, is silver beet or perpetual spinach, whatever you want to call it. Brilliant, It's sort of funny that my mum's half a mile away from me. She gets a lot less bugs than I do. So you'll be surprised how quick the bugs and the situations will change, from one area to another that may only be half a mile apart. But even though I get more bugs, the perpetual spinach or silver beet grows here like a weed without a problem. And I know that this ground has also grown onions and, in the right parts, even carrots and a lot of peas. And, let's face it, I've got peas right outside my front gate. Native peas, they taste like shit, but hey, the soil's obviously growing peas without a problem. And I mean, it has back in the days of my grandfather when he grew them commercially. With the whole silver beet thing, I wouldn't be too surprised if actual beets like beetroot, which is very closely related, same family, would also grow well. I'm not sure, but I hear talk of nematodes. I'm not sure about that exactly. The other one that grows well here, and no bugs touch it at all, no rabbits touch it. The only thing is you don't pack them too close together, otherwise you get mildew and mold issues, is tomatoes. Now, I've always grown those in pots because I've been told that nematodes will get them here. I don't know if they will or not, or whatnot, but all I know is my mum tried several times and had no luck, and from the first time I've tried to grow a tomato, I've had brilliant success all the way through with tomatoes. And, it may say something about somebody's gardening skills and whatnot, but I learned a few things about tomatoes as well, and I do care for my plants a lot more than she does. She won't be too fussed about watering them. I will be quite a bit. And, yeah, tomatoes are funny. They sort of build up. Where I was a boomeroo, they used to say you wait till 30% of them are sagging and then you water them. And, you keep going like that. Always wait till about 30% of them are starting to wilt and then you water them. And that was a way to sort of harden them up and force their roots to grow out, whereas if they're constantly watered, they become very dependent on water and their roots don't develop that well, from what I gather. So, yeah. The other one I should mention is Charlotte mustard. That's a great one that grows without a problem around here, and I ate some of it the other day with a few fried eggs and all that. That's a great source of stuff. That's the world over. Wild European mustard, Charlotte mustard, or Charlotte as they sometimes just call it here. I think even Beverly Hillbillies, mustard greens and possum gizzards. I think mustard greens, I think they might have been talking about Charlotte mustard. But that is the world over, that stuff. It's in the United States, it's in Australia, it's all through Europe. Apparently they even cultivate it in Russia for the purposes of blasted oil to grow soap, oil to make soap with. Yeah, so summarising, learn your edible weeds, learn how to identify them and learn all about them. And the other one is learn what can grow without getting attacked by pests. And sometimes, I should mention this, you'll have a good year the first year, and the second year the pests will ram into it. There's another little trick too. There's a few little things I should mention. I'll get onto fungi in a second. Sometimes you can use the smells of other plants to hide the smell of the plant you are growing to eat from its predator bug. Yeah, if you mix and match things correctly, the smells of some plants drown out the smell of the plant that you're really wanting to grow, and keep the bugs off it that way. Because bugs run primarily on smell, I believe, and this whole idea they can see things, no, their eyesight is shit. And they run a lot on smell. There's things also like companion planting, where if you plant one thing with another thing, you know, peas and onions and carrots together, you know, there's a lot of things that got a 2 combo, and some have even got a 3 combo of companion planting. The other thing I should mention is fungi. Don't go berserk for it unless you know what you're doing really. And I mean, they are bloody hard to identify, and there are some that will just fucking kill you in a few hours. Just like a sack of shit. Ones I go for are ones that are not to be confused easily. Shaggy mane, lion's mane, lawyer's wig, also known as ink mushrooms. They're great, and I've plucked them off the side of the road and ate them. But you've got to have those damn things in a frying pan and cooking up, like actually be cooking them to eat within probably, 45 minutes. If you do it in 3 hours, there'll be nothing left. You know, you want to do it in 45 minutes, no more than an hour and a half, and at the 3-hour point, you're not even worth having anymore. They're the ones that all turn into slops and shit. There isn't many kinds of them. There's just pretty much the one kind of them. If you go for them and you know what they look like, and make sure they're not real short ones, small ones, because they might be toadstools, but the bigger ones, you'll get to know what they are. They tend to grow in clusters, and you might, all fungi does, tend to grow in clusters because of the mycelium under the soil or inside the leaf debris or whatever. In some cases even inside the rotted log, for shiitake mushrooms, things like that. They will appear in lots, and if you see one of them going to ink, then grab all the other ones around it, and you're guaranteed they are ink mushrooms, not, oh shit, I got the wrong one. But you'll get to know. If you look, you'll get to know, and you may have noticed them before, and if you have noticed them before, you'll know what size they are, and you won't get them confused with a smaller toadstool or anything like that. The other one is jelly fungus, white jelly fungus. I have found a patch of this in a forest that's a little bit of a distance away from me. Brilliant. It's so long as you wash the damn rotten crap. It's quite an interesting one. It's a parasitic fungi that parasites of another fungi. There is a wood decaying fungi that gets into rotten logs, old posts and things like that. Jelly fungus parasites off of that wood fungi. Over here it's white, in China it's white, it's a clear stuff. As they get older they go sort of more slops and just sort of fall away to nothing. But if you get them when they're sort of younger, they're more whiter as opposed to clear, I think. But yeah, they're definitely firmer and they're not sort of wasting away, and they're fine to eat. And in Europe it'll be orange or yellow, and it may be that colour in the United States, but over in Australia and in China they're white, and they're just like gummy bears basically, that sort of consistency. They are so rare in their own class that they're safe to eat worldwide as well. And you won't get them confused with anything because they are so frickin' bizarre if you've ever even seen it, because a lot of people have never even seen the stuff before. And go look it up, witch's butter. Go look that up and see some interesting images. But they actually, they taste quite alright as long as you can give them a bit of a wash. They just taste like almost nothing at all. A bit like sago or something like that, you know, and hey, you know, it's more food, it's fine to eat, and I'm sure some little kid would like chewing on it. But anyway, I've just ranted on for about 25 minutes, so yeah, it's a bit of advice on what plants to make a go of.